Hey, let's go over some Spurs news and notes that you may have missed. And then look, Sochan trusts the Spurs process. Should you?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kins 5 San Antonio. I'm glad to have y'all back, and happy Wednesday, everybody. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kins 5 Plus app, YouTube, and pick a platform. We are there. What are we talking about today? We're going to be over some Spurs news and notes, specifically some of the draft prospects that I get a chance to speak with yesterday. We'll pick out one that I had a chance to chat with. What did that person have to say? And then bring in our guest, Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. We're going to be discussing the process. Jeremy Sochan said he's trusts the Spurs process. Should you? We're going to be discussing that and more. But let's dive into it. So yesterday I had a chance to talk with several NBA prospects that could theoretically fall to the Spurs. I got to learn a lot about them. But, you know, I figured I'd spread this out. It is the offseason. And I'm going to talk about what Nicola Topic had to say to me when we had a chance to chat. Now, obviously, I did ask him, if he spoke with the Spurs. Now, he said that he has not personally spoken with the Spurs as far as, X's and O's, some sort of workout, nothing like that. It was interesting, though. He said the only contact he had with them was with team doctors, and that they wanted to know the status of his health, his knee injury. Now, you look at several mock drafts. They have the Spurs. Some have the Spurs selected him with either 4 or 8. Although overall, I think his stock is plummeting because of the injuries. Now, first of all, the Spurs are doing their due diligence. They got to check out that knee if the Spurs want to take a chance on him and select him at the upcoming draft. He checks all the boxes, right? Big guard, point guard, floor, can run the floor, attack the rim, put pressure on the rim, put pressure on the defense. For the most part, he's young, he's not old, but that knee injury, he busted that knee twice. Same knee. Now, the recent injury wasn't as bad, it ended up being a sprain, but nevertheless, that's, as I understand, that's cause for pause if you're the Spurs or any team looking to draft him. Now, as we continue chatting, I did ask him, okay, look, let's just say the Spurs select you and you're off to San Antonio. How you think you'll fit in? So interesting, same canned answer, but he did provide me that whether it's the Spurs or whoever picks him, that he will understand his role, that he feels like he's more plug and play, and it doesn't matter what he does. Remember, I got the quote here for you. He says, I think I would fit in great with any team, not just San Antonio. As I've said many times, whoever picks me, the approach is the same. I'll do my best to accept the role the coach gives me, and that is it. So, his eyes are just landing with an NBA team now. Could that be San Antonio? Well, some mocks have the Spurs selected him. Just overall in his chat with everybody in the room, he did make it clear that he's not 100%. He said right now that he's focusing on his body mainly and getting the knee better ahead of the draft. So he's aware that that knee can be tricky, and I get it. That's cause for pause for even you guys, Spurs fans, that may not be so high on Topic. And think about it too. Remember how much his name was in pretty much everybody's lips leading up to the draft, and now here we are, 2 injuries now removed from that, and it's kind of gotten quiet, hasn't it? So yeah, I think you still see some mocks getting the Spurs and him together and being selected at 4 or 8, but you see some mocks where he's dropped to the late 20s. So yeah, it will be interesting now. Again, obviously the Spurs did the due diligence. They did speak with him about the health of his knee, just his health overall. But he seemed to be good in spirits. He feels that he can make an impact with an NBA team. And look, what other team? He's going to say that. He's going to get picked to go pro, whether it's San Antonio or not. So he's going to say the right things. But yeah, so the Spurs did talk to him, but not about X's and O's or fit, how his knee is. So at least that's according to Nikola Topic when I had a chance to talk to him. So there you have it. My quick chat with Nicola. I hope y'all, hey, it is what it is. Take it for what you want. What do you see into it? Do you think the Spurs are looking at him to select him? Should be noted that I spoke to DeJounte Murray before he was even picked in the NBA. And he told me at that time that he never met with the Spurs and he never worked out with the Spurs, and the Spurs selected him. So for what that is worth, there it is. So maybe, you never know. So Nikola Topic could be a Spur. But as of right now, I think the knee is just really, really going to be an issue for him to be selected high. Should the Spurs waste a number 4 pick on him, a number 8 pick on him, knowing that he's 18 years old and has already knee injuries? Yeah, it's a lot to think about. All right. There you have it. My quick chat with Nikola Topic. Coming up next, we have Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. We're going to be discussing, the process. Sochan believes in it. Should you? That's next right here on Locked On Spurs. This episode of the show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, we all carry some things around, whether good or bad. It's also just really good to get it off your chest. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Look, you should know that we carry stressors in our life, and something can get to us. The best thing to do is get that off your chest. So if you're looking at online therapy, you want to give BetterHelp a chance. Look, it's completely online, designed to fit your schedule. You can switch therapists at any time, no extra cost. And look, you don't want to keep those bad things bottled up, or maybe good things that you want to continue doing better. You need help continue doing those better things. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Look, as far as the bad things, it can start affecting you negatively. Therapy is a safe place to get things off your chest and to figure out what is going to take to work through whatever's weighing you down. So that's where BetterHelp comes in. Again, it's entirely online, designed to be convenient, suited to your schedule, flexible. Look, you just fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and as I mentioned, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. That's where you get things off your chest right now with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
A Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs, pass on what you have learned.
Look who's back, everybody. It's been a while, but he is here. Raul Dominguez. Make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5 right now. He is the AP Sports writer based out in San Antonio. Every time you need a quick recap, a little in-depth analysis to the San Antonio Spurs, you want to go to him. Follow him on X at Dominguez5. Make sure to do that right now. Raul, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Just trying to make it through the summer, man.
Oh, yeah.
Hot.
Yeah, it's hot. And it's a long Spurs offseason. It's going to peak a little bit in a few weeks with the NBA draft. But after that, it'll start heading the doldrums of the NBA season. And by the way, what a gap between the NBA finals, right? I mean, that is a week gap before we get to see the Celtics.
Yeah, that's the only bad thing is they have it set up to where, I guess, in case one or both series go 7 games, and when they're able to kind of close it out early, there's that huge gap. Wish they would, change it a little bit, but I guess they already had it all kind of set up.
Yeah, they get it all set it up again. Make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. So why is he here? Well, we're going to be reacting to what Jeremy Sochan had to say recently with an outlet overseas. I believe it was in Spain, about the process, the rebuild, and it's a touchy subject, especially with Spurs fans. The Spurs fans don't want to hear patience. They don't want to hear the phrase, trust the process, nothing. But in essence, Raul, let's go and dive into it now. That's what Jeremy said. But it was very interesting because he revealed a lot more than just simply, we're trusting the process. He even went as far as to say, like, the players, the staff, everybody has been talking about the rebuild. And based off his interview role, it sounds like, at least at this moment, the Spurs are going to trust the process and not rush this.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart of the Spurs to let them know, and and I think they knew last year as well. Last year was the year that they were going to, as they put it, develop. And so I'm sure the Spurs knew that, last year wasn't going to be too good. I think everyone thought it'd be a little bit better this year, but, I know that they told me, hey, we're another 2-3 years in the building and rebuilding. So it's smart. I mean, I know when Philadelphia, when the 76ers were having their process, they made sure to tell the players, because Joel Embiid, would talk about all the time, I trust the process. So it's not surprising to hear that Jeremy and the other players know about it. We wait 2 or 3 years and they're not doing well, and people say, "Oh, see, I told you." But me personally, I think it's the best option. You look at what Oklahoma City's doing. Always go back to them, what they're able to accomplish. Oklahoma City, they lost to Dallas, potential NBA champions. I think they took them to 7 games. I can't remember. but they had a better run at Dallas, than just about it. They gave them a tougher playoff matchup than just about anybody. Oklahoma City is real young. They're real deep. They have a lot of assets that they can trade away, or, contracts start coming up. They've got draft picks to replace those guys, to be able to sign, some of their key players. I don't think that they should go out and trade, all their assets for one player, two players. Mm-hmm. I just think that's, we've talked about this before. Spurs are going to build through the draft and potential trade. I mean, I know people keep talking about, well, free agents are going to want to come here to play with Wemby. Until I see it, I won't believe it. So I think that they definitely need to continue to trust the process, let it kind of play out. I think that, I think they're going to get at least one starter out of this year's draft, potentially two. And then next year, with all those draft picks and a really strong draft class, they can either get several players, or maybe they could, package a couple to move up. But, I think they're doing things the right way. I was going to say real quick, though, I saw a report saying that the Wizards wanted multiple first-round picks for Kyle Kuzma. Like Kuzma, like his game, but, multiple first-round picks for Kuzma, I just – to me, if that's the market, then, what are they going to ask for Trey or for DeJounte or for Darius? I think that it's way too much for that.
I agree with you. And again, we know the Spurs fans, you just go, on social media, they're all about, majority, not all. Like, some do trust the process. There are some segment of Spurs fans that are okay with a long rebuild. But the majority of Spurs fans are like, no, what are you doing, Spurs? You got Victor in uniform. You got all these assets. Maybe some of the current players don't fit with him. Let's get this show on the road. Now, Sochan did allude to that during his interview with the Spanish outlet. I got the quote right here for you, Raul, and I'll read it to you, get your reaction. He goes, of course, you got to find people, and if something is not working, you just got to change it. Now, he's obviously, what is he talking about, Ro? Fit. We've heard this from Brian Wright, Popovich, probably from Sochan. This team is still looking at the players to fit. Fit who? Victor Wembanyama. Again, is that the right approach Spurs should take when looking at the field of free agents or even the draft? Look at fit with Wemby.
Yeah, definitely should do that. I think once they drafted Duncan, that they try to look to see what kind of players they could build around him. And, with Tim, they needed some 3-point shooters. They needed some, needed a point guard like Tony who would drive in the middle and, help feed, Tim on the side or the 3-pointer. So, they sort of built the roster around Tim, and I think they're going to do the same thing with Wemby. But as far as like the players that they have on the roster now, it's kind of tough to tell. Still kind of tough to tell who fits in with them because, still had a lot of injuries last year. Unfortunately, the Sochan at point guard experiment didn't work, so I think that kind of set them back about a month or two to find out who exactly could fit in there. But I think everyone, pretty much everyone on this roster, I think fits with Wemby. I mean, I know I've heard talk about trading Keldon. I think Keldon's great off the bench. Sandro, it'd be interesting to see Sandro. I hope they sign him and give him a chance, maybe to play more minutes with Wemby because they seem really comfortable with each other. Devin and Victor were building some great chemistry together. Trey did a great job, but I think he might be better suited as a backup guard, kind of almost a George Hill type with Tony. As far as the fit, I thought for the most part everybody fit with Wemby, and that's just a testament to Victor. I think Victor could play well with anybody. It's just a matter of that person allowing Victor to be Victor.
Yeah. I do agree with Sochan about you don't want to add a player just to add a player. Look. This example right now is Phoenix. I mean, we got Durant, we have Beal, we have Booker, and it didn't work out. Didn't work out at all. So there's name chasing, and I don't think the Spurs should do the name chasing. Just as an example, let's just say maybe the Spurs bring in like a Tobias Harris, not a sexy pick, a pickup or nothing like that. But what if that is what the Spurs need? That little bit of push, that type of player that can get this team over the hump and get the rebuild going. Now, interesting enough, though, Raul, during that interview with Drafteados, Spanish outlet, Jeremy says the biggest key in the rebuild for him, in his opinion, is actually probably not, at least currently, is the roster itself right now. He says, quote, he goes, "We're all looking forward positively. It just depends on how quickly we develop as young players and a team." So he's still thinking that the rebuild actually centers around the current core and their development. I get it, Sochan. I know you want to look out for your current teammates and everything, but Raul, if this current team ain't working, they got to make some moves. So you stand with that, what Sochan had to say about the key, in his opinion, is current player development.
Yeah, I think he's got a good point, and you do as well. I'd like to see this group play together, at least till the All-Star break next year. This upcoming season, with those, two potential draft picks, I don't know, maybe a trade or a free agent. Yeah. See how they do. I mean, because there were times last year when they looked absolutely fantastic, especially there late in the year. I think they were starting to figure things out. So it would be good to let them sort of develop and see. But you also have a good point. I think if they don't seem like they're meshing well, especially come All-Star break, if they're still not meshing, then you probably have to do some a little bit of tweaking. But I don't think what people are expecting with the Spurs. I think people are expecting them to tank next year, and that's not what they're going to do. No. They have enough draft picks. They have enough capital from other teams to where their record, where they finish, is going to be as important as, say, this year or obviously last year.
Mm-hmm. How impactful do you think that Wemby's here? Spurs fans are worried about, the Spurs don't get things going, and Wemby is getting closer to free agency period. At the end of his contract, he's going to leave. And I think that could still be a byproduct of the Kawhi Leonard situation. There was a megastar in San Antonio, and he bolted for, at least for home, but nevertheless, he went to a bigger market, Los Angeles. With Wemby, there's that, I guess, fear among Spurs fans that he'll do the same, not necessarily the way Kawhi did it, but, look for bigger markets if the Spurs aren't winning ASAP. Where do you stand on that?
I think it's maybe mentality, I guess, the Spurs fans have almost always had. I mean, when David was drafted, he had the 2 years for the naval commitment. And if I remember correctly, he had the opportunity to not sign with the Spurs and go somewhere else. And I remember Spurs fans were worried about that because I guess technically, since he hadn't played with the Spurs, if I remember correctly, he could choose not to sign with them and then re-enter the draft. I believe that's what it was. But I remember distinctively how Spurs fans were worried that he was going to, not even play with the Spurs. He was going to go sign somewhere else. And then when Tim became a free agent, people were worried that he was going to leave. He almost did. He almost went to Orlando, but people were worried about that, and then with Kawhi, Kawhi leaving. So it's understandable. I think Spurs fans always feel sort of like the, like second rate at times as far as the bigger markets. And, so if we have a superstar, they're going to go somewhere else. David, Manu, Tony, Timmy, they all proved that, San Antonio can keep their superstars. Victor doesn't strike me as the kind of person that's going to want to go somewhere else in order to be a big star. He can be a big star in San Antonio. So I don't think he would leave just for a bigger market. He might leave if in order to maybe if things aren't going well, I want to win a title, I'll go somewhere else. But I really do think He's the biggest one as far as you're talking about trusting the process. I think he's the biggest one. I think he trusts the process because he's seen the results, with Tony and with Timmy and with Manu.
Well, he does kind of pull the line a bit. He does trust the process, but you and I were in that conference room when he said, okay, we'll take our steps, but there's nothing wrong with taking those steps fast. So, he's kind of straddled the side. And then what did he say when he won he presented the Rookie of the Year award in San Antonio. He reiterated again, I want to win. I want to win. He keeps on saying that. So sure, he does trust the process and he's made that very clear. But he's also talked about speeding things up and winning ASAP. You're the Spurs. You're hearing that. You're like, okay, Victor, what do we got to do? Because right now it's Victor's show. Where he wants usually will go. So, but I'm glad we're on that topic of Victor though, because Sochan even touched on that too. I mean, seriously, everybody, go check out the interview at KensFi.com/Spurs. Sochan just let out a lot, which you rarely see from the Spurs. They're faults. He addressed Wemby. He says, of course, having someone like Victor Wembanyama coming to the team heightens everything. I think it makes people think you got to do this now. But so I did continue to say that they are still going to be patient. It says, quote, we're not trying to rush it. We're staying patient. Interesting too. He did point to the Denver situation, how Jokic and all them, 26, 27 years old, it took them a while to get things where they are right now. So, it's like Sochan, he says like, yeah, we know we got Victor. He's in uniform, but we're not going to push it. Look at Denver. They took a while before it got to be the Denver Nuggets, the super team. It feels to me the Spurs are just kind of like, we're not going to rush it, but we may push it a bit. I don't know how to read all this, Ro.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. I think if they get a deal that makes sense to them, they're going to do it. But I just can't picture them. I've seen some pretty outlandish, scenarios like, we get Trae Young for 4 first-round picks and 2 players, and I'm just like, I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, they're not going to. I seriously doubt they're going to trade away all their assets for one player. So.
I think they'll do that. Yeah, I mean, especially you're hearing like, what Atlanta, what the sticker price is for Atlanta for Trae Young. I mean, no way, no. Or Darius Garland. You can't tell me Cleveland is going to try to max a deal for him. But the thing about it is the Spurs can't afford a sticker price, so they can. They can. How many first rounds you want, Atlanta? We got you. We can even throw in some second rounders for you. So, yeah. But at the end of the day, Raul, where do you stand? Do you trust the Spurs' current process the way Sochan does?
I do. Spurs have always been pretty forward thinking. It's one thing that I've always sort of admired and respected about them is how far in advance they always think ahead. Like, the contracts that they sign, like if you notice, like a lot, especially in the past, a lot of the players' contracts were up. Like, a lot of them are up at the same time, same year. Especially if a big free agent class was coming around, they would try and do that to when they were trying to lure some of these free agents in. Didn't work, but they had a plan. They had a plan to draft Victor. I mean, everything had to fall into place, but Spurs allowed themselves to be in position for things to fall into place. So, they had that plan. I trust the process with them. And I think this year's draft and next year's draft are going to be the cornerstone, I think, of the rebuild. Of course, obviously with Victor as well. So
I'm right there with you too. We'll see what the Spurs do. I think they're on the clock right now, light, but I think by All-Star break, if things are not clicking, then they got to do something. If it's not, because that'll be another 6 years in a row missing the playoffs. That's not good.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like last year, where I don't think they'll accept, having another long losing streak. But I don't think they're going to do that either. I think that between the players that they have and who they could add, I think they're going to. I think I told you I predicted 30 wins for them next year, and I really do think they're going to get that.
All right. He is Raul Dominguez. Follow him on X at Dominguez Cinco. When we get back, we're going to talk about you guys, Locked On Spurs fans. You guys are doing a lot of comments. We're going to pick a couple of them. That's next right here on Locked On Spurs.
Oh, hey, this is Morty Smith, and geez, you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. Geez.
Hey, I want to talk about FanDuel right now. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. That's where you got to go to FanDuel right now. New customers, listen up. You get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. You heard that right. $150 you can bet on spreads, money lines, player props, so much more. Look, the NBA Finals are just right around the corner. Look, the Spurs don't have they're not in the NBA Finals, but hey, look, Derek White's there, with former Spur, with the Boston Celtics. If you're cheering for Boston, have fun with it with FanDuel. Look, you want to visit FanDuel.com right now. Make every playoff shot count. Download it right now. Get it on your phone. Go create an account. Do what you got to do. It's very user-friendly, intuitive. And yeah, it's about that winning time right now with the NBA Finals championship on the line. So have some fun with it. Go to FanDuel right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Dominguez, AP sports writer based in San Antonio. Follow him on X at Dominguez Cinco. Ask him how he's able to maintain hope within him and he doesn't unleash it on a daily basis. I don't know how you do it, but I guess a lot of yoga, keep it in check.
That's it.
That's it. By the way, quick nerd segment here. Are you looking forward to The Acolyte?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Me too. I am excited for that. We're going to get the era of I guess peak Jedi, right? There's peak Jedi, right?
Yeah.
When they were the
so I'm interested to see who they have on there. So
yeah, they have a good ensemble. I like the cast they picked to play the Jedi. Trinity, the actress played Trinity. She's in it, and so yeah, I am looking forward to it. Maybe when I see Darth Dominguez making an appearance, maybe All right, it's time to talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans. You guys are leaving a lot of comments. We're going to dive into them. We're going to pick two, but keep those comments coming because maybe the next show you'll be picked and we'll read your comments right here on Locked On Spurs. Shocker, Raul. A lot about drafts, so we'll pick one about the draft. This is from Jeff McCallahan. He says, Ricochet has a lot of bust written on him. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ricochet is projected to be a 1 or 2 pick. Maybe might fall out of the Spurs, reach if they stay at 4 or 8. But if for some reason he drops to 4, they move up to get him. I don't know if bust is the right word. I would say maybe project light. What do you think about Ricochet?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be a bust. He's got a pretty high ceiling, so there's a chance that he might not live up to all the expectations, but I don't think he's going to be a bust. I just might be a case of maybe where he starts off slowly, kind of like Victor did. And if you remember when Victor started slowly, there were all these other fans from other teams talking about how he's a bust and this and that. But I don't think he's going to be a bust. I would be shocked if he falls out of the top 2. But if he were to somehow fall to 4 with the Spurs, you got to take him. You've got to take him. You got to pair him with Wemby.
Yeah, exactly. Pair him with Wemby, a fellow French countryman. He's that wing kind of player the Spurs need. But they might have a logjam there because kind of in the same mold as Vassell. Kind of, sort of. Maybe a little bit more fluid. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But no, if Ricochet falls to 4, the Spurs move up to get him, and I would not have a problem with that. I actually hope that they would package 4 and 8. I would love to see him do that, either to move down or move up.
Yeah.
But we'll see. No, I thank you for the comment, but I don't think bust. I would say maybe a project light. It'll take them a while to get going.
Yeah, the other thing is, France is doing such an incredible job developing their players, through their academies, through their teams, or the pro leagues that they have. you look at Wemby, Bilal, Sar, Reshashare, but I can't remember the kid's name. 25 point guard, just dropped 45 points.
And
sorry,
I do. I'm drawing a blank too, but I think it touched the T or something like that.
Yeah. And they have more kids coming too. So I just think that France right now is just doing an amazing job just developing their players and getting them ready for the NBA. I think it's going to be very hard for any of their top prospects to be a bust.
Even Wemby's brother is developing too fast. So there could be another Wemby coming to the NBA at this rate. All right, thank you for that comment. Our next comment is from Oscar. Let me see if I get this right. Oscar Ortuno, 24. He says, would rather have Garland than Mitchell. He's talking about Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Garland is 1 year removed from being an all-star. Thank you for that comment, Oscar. You know what? I kind of agree with him, Raul. If I had to pick between Garland and Mitchell, I think I would take Garland. A little younger. You know, he's been kind of living in the shadow of Donovan Mitchell and for a certain degree, Colin Sexton. I just feel maybe a change of address would be good for him. And if it's that change of address in San Antonio, I will be all fine about it. But I just want to know what the sticker price is for him, what Cleveland would want. But what do you think? If you had to pick between Garland and Mitchell, who'd you get?
Well, that's a tough one. You know, Garland, when he played against the Spurs, I think it was a couple seasons ago, him and Jared Allen both had big games. And I've always liked Darius's game. I mean, he's a scrappy kid, you know, great little point guard. Sort of Max, I was gonna say sort of Maxi's mold, but Maxi's actually kind of maybe in his mold because I think Darius is a little older than Maxi, but you know, Darius is a great young player. If they could get him, yes. But if I had a choice between the two, I would have to go with Donovan. I mean, great scorer, great leader. Donovan just has this fight in him. I mean, when he came down here and him and Zach got tangled up afterwards, you know, he was just talking about, he's like, you know, you don't push me. He goes, you're going to push me, you know, you better be ready to fight. Yeah. So he's got that little bit of a nastiness to him. So if I had a, didn't have to give up much for either one or whatever, you know, or equal for both, I would say Donovan, but Darius would make more sense as far as the age and kind of how he would fit. Yeah,
for me, it's the fit. You know, I and also think he'd be willing to take less touches. I think Donovan will want his touches, and so does Wemby want his touches. It's not, I mean, horrible for him to have your San Antonio, but still, I mean, you got to balance that out. I think Darius just, to me, feels the bigger need right now for the Spurs, established point guard, and a big point guard, and the guy who created a shot, hit a 3-point shot, and all that good stuff. And I really believe a change of address is needed for him. Because you think about it, like I said, you know, he was playing behind Colin Sexton, he got moved, but who came in? Donovan Mitchell. Now you're playing behind Donovan Mitchell, you know, and it happens. And I think that I think that'll be good for him. And if it's in the Spurs colors, so be. Hey, but Raul, Vegas recently let their odds out about Darius Garland's next team if he doesn't stay with Cleveland, and the Spurs were the number one team according to Vegas odds maker. I think it was like a plus 200. Wow, Vegas knows all, Raul.
Well, I wonder who's placing these odds or placing these bets, because I think they had. At one point, they had Trae Young's best destination was the Spurs. Garland, and I can't remember. They had like a couple other players.
I think Steph Curry was going to be.
That's why Steph Curry. You know, Steph Curry leaves, and so it's good. San Antonio's Spurs are really popular right now. You know, good name obviously because of Wemby. So you know, it's good that they're getting attention, but you know, I certainly wouldn't face any of those bets.
Yeah, me neither. No, me neither. Yeah, the guy you're seeing on your screen right now, that is the Wemby effect hitting those odds makers, everybody. It's really, that's the reason why a lot of players, well, at least Vegas thinks a lot of players could be heading to San Antonio. It makes sense, you know. Spurs are on the rise. Yeah, maybe they're still in the trenches of the rebuild, but they're going to come out. And we'll see if Sochan's right about trusting the process. We'll see if he'll do that. But we thank y'all for leaving those comments. Keep them coming. We'll read them throughout the offseason. He is Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Follow him on X at Dominguez5. If you don't, he'll turn to Darth Dominguez. You don't want that. By the way, we're finally going to get a lightsaber whip. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm excited about that too. So
I am excited. Yeah, I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited. I'm actually going to order pizza. I'm going to make a big deal about it because I think they're releasing 2 or 3, right? Like
I think it's a 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the first night's going to be the 2-episode premiere.
I cannot wait. Just take it easy on the Jedi. Raul, come on. You don't have to go all Darth Dominguez on them too much. He is Raul Dominguez. Again, follow him on X at Dominguez Single. What's going on in your world with the Spurs offseason?
Just kind of holding out for the draft and, finding out what's going on, just catching up on yard work and such. So.
Yeah. Well, in the San Antonio Heat, yeah, maybe you are the Hulk. You could take that kind of heat, man. Yeah, that is tough. Trust me, that takes a lot of strength for somebody to cut the yard into San. Even if it's at 6 or 7 p.m., it's still hot outside. But again, Raul, thank you for making that time to drop on Locked On Spurs. And we thank you all for making Locked On Spurs your first spot to come to listen to all things Silver and Black. And subscribe to us on YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app, what else? iTunes, Spotify, what goes on and all. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe Rudy Campos is coming in tomorrow. Discuss more Silver and Black stuff as the offseason continues. So for Raul Dominguez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.